Hello, good evening, and welcome along, Leeds United fans, to the West Yorkshire Football Show as to give you our instant post-match reaction to Leeds United 4, Bristol City 0. Not bad, was it, Leeds United fans, that one? A resounding victory, one of the best of the season, incredible sign-off from Elland Road on the day that we've seen plans for what Elland Road is expected to look like in a few years as well. So it's all happening for the club at the minute. I'm Stephen Brown, joining me as ever to discuss everything to do with the Whites. It is Jason Booker. We're going to talk about the match. Obviously, we're going to talk about everything that's happening around Leeds United as well. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of rumours, a lot of excitement building for that Premier League campaign. If you're watching us live, get your comments in. What did you make of that one, Leeds fans? Get subscribed to the channel. And make sure you're liking the video as well. Jason, I mean, what can you say about that performance? I mean, there's not enough adjectives to describe that performance. I mean, supreme, incredible. I mean, it was just top draw. From the off, I mean, bang at it from the off. A team clearly playing with confidence, freedom. Promotion is obviously secured, so there's that kind of weight is off the shoulders in a way. But obviously, we want to try and win the title as well. But I mean, just superb, Jason, from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, it only builds on some of the performances that we've been given recently as well. When the pressure was still there, there was still pressure at Stoke. We came and completely blew them away. I'd argue against Preston, we were fantastic. We should have scored more than 2, and we should have won by a bigger margin than 1 for sure. Middlesbrough, we won that game 3-0, really, away from home when the pressure was completely on. And today, you take that pressure off, and I mean, it was a joke, mate. I said to you before coming live, I know we've scored 6 and 7 this season, but that for me was our best performance of the season. They didn't have a shot, didn't Bristol, until the 74th minute. They had 1 shot on target, which was a P-roller in the 90-something. And bear in mind, this is a team that if they won, they would have confirmed playoffs. That have been registered as being confirmed. They're 5th in the league. They're a good side. They've caused teams a lot of problems this season. And we were brilliant, mate. It could have been so many more than 4. The football that was on show was a joke.
Just to cut you off, I'm sorry, but they're doing like an end of season celebration where all the players have come onto the pitch and getting the round of applause. Now, Daniel Farker has just come out, and interested to watch because Parag's watching him and had a big smile on his face, and the Leeds fans are going absolutely nuts for him. I just wanted to make a reference to that because it's going to be fascinating to watch. But yeah, sorry, Jason, continue.
No, it's okay. We'll talk about Daniel Farker later, I guess, rather than bouncing around. But he ain't going anywhere, mate. It ain't happening. But yeah, we'll cover that separately tonight. I just thought we were a joy, mate. I thought we were an absolute joy. And you really can see what these boys can do when there's no pressure attached, and they just let themselves go. The technical ability of this team is levels and levels above this league, and we've said it all season. Me and you have said it all season that we thought that this team were the best in the division, and they are. Yeah. They've just clocked up 92 goals now, and another clean sheet tonight. By the way, we will hit the record for the least goals conceded as well, but it'll also be broken in the same season by Burnley. We have the best. That's true, yeah. So the goals that if we don't concede again against Plymouth, we will also beat the record that was set before this season for goals conceded. It'll only be bettered by Burnley this season also, who have also been fantastic. If Burnley win at the weekend, which I expect they probably will, we're both going to finish on 100 points. That's insane. It is actually insane. And you've got to give credit to Burnley and Scott Parker. Right? I still think Daniel Farker should have won manager of the season, but I don't think you could really argue between the two because I think he still had a difficult job to do. The lack of goals that they've conceded and the way that they've played since January. I think fair enough. Fair enough. But to watch that football today, and again, I hate to say this, but it was every bit as good as watching the very best Bielsa ball. It really was. It was beautiful. Ilya Gruev was an absolute monster in front of that back four, picking up balls, linking play, in behind, short, just brilliant. Tanaka, just doing Tanaka things. Solomon, man of the match, Adam on toast again. I mean, I just put a tweet out a minute ago because I can't let it go, and I will do once the season's over. But to think that there were people that said that Manor Solomon wouldn't start games for Leeds United, I said when we signed him, he's got the potential to be an absolute cheat code, and it's proven. So the guy's levels above this level. The Pirro, Brendan. I thought Brendan was brilliant today. I thought he linked the play excellently. He saw what he could really do without pressure on his shoulders. Yeah. Pressure is part of it, and it is part of what makes up the quality of a player. So it does matter. But when you do have it off and you can see what they can fully do in full swing, it makes you really see what the team is set up to do by Daniel Farke for a start, and the quality that the players do possess. And I'm just going to finish as well, because I was thinking about it with in between the game. Obviously, we know what we get from Jayden Bogle. Again, it was brilliant. I just wanted to make kind of a mention to Junior Firpo, because it might be his last game for Leeds. We don't know, at Elland Road. And, considering how Junior's time at Leeds started and his 2 seasons in the Premier League, he's come back with a vengeance over this last 2 seasons, and he showed every bit of the quality that, obviously he possessed, that Barcelona took the chance on, took him from Betis, where he'd had a really, really good time. And I saw an interview the other day where he was saying about his time in the Premier League and getting COVID back-to-back and injuries and getting rushed back into the squad because we didn't have another left-back, did we, really? We were playing Stuart Dallas there, or whoever else was, filling in. And it made me kind of just check myself a little bit. Now, I'm still going to say that during his time as a Premier League defender, he's one of the worst fullbacks I've ever seen in a Leeds shirt. He is. That isn't going to change, because they were the levels of performances that he put out at the time. But on reflection, hearing him talk about it and see what he's been able to do over the last 2 seasons, like, I have to change my assessment of what, my feelings were back then. And I don't want to see him be the starting left back, but he deserves every opportunity to have another deal at Leeds United. And he's a bit of a cult figure now, and he has been brilliant. I mean, his assists again today were excellent. He could have got another goal. I think he should have earned a penalty as well. He got shoved in the back as he was coming towards that before Brendan blazed it over. Yeah. It was just brilliant, and he's been brilliant all season. Season. So fair play, Junior. Senior Firpo.
Absolutely, yeah. It was interesting because his missus put an Instagram, didn't she, about what was it now? That, like, he seemed to hint that the future was Leeds, and I agree. I mean, obviously big question marks about him coming into this championship campaign, and I still feel at times we've seen defensive failures, but his attacking output and what he's offered has just been absolutely levels above. And I don't think it can be kind of understated or overstated how difficult that must have been to come back from that bruising 2-year campaign in the Premier League, where it was really tough for him, really tough, and to get the fan base back on board and everything, testament to Farke as well, because he's been able to.
Going to say that myself.
He's been able to get this from a few of the players that really looked kind of just down and out at Leeds on the way out, and he's brought the best from these guys and got it done. I mean, just some wonderful performances tonight, Jason. I mean, all over. I mean, let's talk about the Peru pass. We've got to mention that Peru pass, because, I mean, it's just, you talk about Harry Kane, you mentioned it's like De Bruyne-esque. I mean, I just thought Peru was just, I mean, he's that kind of striker, isn't he, where he's got that in his locker, hasn't he? That the little touches and setting people up, and he's like a 9 and a 10, isn't he? He's like combined, isn't it? It's I've spoken before about, I hope that he can maybe bridge that gap to the Premier League and actually be, that guy who can make that step up. And you see performances like that, and when they've got that ability, you just think possibly might be able to.
I mean, I think Joe Perreault deserves so much credit for the way that he stepped up this year.
Yeah.
He had moments last year, and I think he was caught between the positions. I think Daniel Farke was caught between the positions with him as well. And I don't think it helped that we had this situation with Gio Rutter, who was kind of caught between positions as well. Like, he wasn't a striker, but ended up playing as the 9, and it were all felt a little bit clunky. And it was part of the reason why we ended up not going up, because Daniel Farke had not got all of the positions that he wanted to have, really. Was having to do with too many makeshifts. You can argue this season we've had one makeshift, which is probably Brendan in the 10. But apart from that, everybody else has felt pretty natural in the positions. So, and it's made a massive difference. And I think Joe Perreault deserves so much credit for how he's adapted his game. He's been able to, be that floating 9 that links the play. I mean, some of his link-up play tonight was just insane. Like, he was laying balls left and right at the right time and turning, he was turning his defenders and driving from deep, and then he was picking the ball up another 20 yards further up, and it was just brilliant. And I don't remember him really having a shot on goal today, but his performance actually really deserved a goal because it was just so good. Because obviously we want him to be top scorer, and that's an accolade for him. He wants to get to 20. He'll be the first player since Chris Wood 8 years ago to get 20 in a season, which is insane in itself at this level. And it's a funny one. He's going to take some adapting, but I think if he can have the same level of development from this season to last season, he will be a Premier League player in another few months. If he can take that extra step up. Now, I think there'll be times where he'll have barren runs, but I honestly think he's got that little bit of extra quality. And I also think he's got the mentality. I don't think he'll be overawed by what he's got to do in a step up. So I'm really, really interested to see what he can do at Premier League level. As for tonight, mate, he was just absolutely sensational, his link-up play. And that pass, like I said, pre-stream, if it was Kevin De Bruyne, we'd be seeing it on repeat. We'd be seeing it on repeat. It was very similar to the De Bruyne assist that it were a few years ago when it arced it all the way around the back.
I still remember that.
It was slightly better than Pirro's, but Pirro's was similar from the other side. It was perfect because it put it on a plate for Nonto. All he had to do was compose himself and put it in. So just sensational, mate. There's not so many, like I say, adjectives that I can use to kind of describe their performance tonight. And like I said, I thought Pirro especially was so cute all night.
Yeah. Bristol City, no mugs, 5th, going for playoffs, and they were made to just look like a pub team.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have a sniff. I mean, they couldn't get near us. I mean, how demoralising must that be, Jason, if you're a Bristol City player out there running around and, you saw the manager getting frustrated. And, I mean, I played in 5-a-side games where they're just miles better than you. And you just like a headless chicken, and you're just thinking, God, is my hour up yet? I can't stand this. Or can someone sub because I'm getting fed up of this? I mean, just being on the pitch with a team that clearly levels above you, and you're only, 4 places behind them in the league. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely mental, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it, didn't you, on the players' faces for Bristol. After maybe about 65, 70 minutes, they wanted to off that pitch. They had enough. You could see it. They were just completely demoralised. They were knackered as well. They were absolutely shattered. And then we start making subs and bring Ramazani on, who scores 2. And it's like, I felt a little bit sorry for him in the end. I mean, we were just bopping it about. And like I said, they didn't have a shot until the 74th minute. No. They didn't have a shot on target until after the 90th minute. It was a complete and utter masterclass dominance. There were levels above. I mean, I said it earlier. We have said it all season that we are technically so much better than the rest of this division, and you can see that when we're able to put it together and we've done it more. I'm not going to say more often than not this season, but we have won a lot of games, and we've won a lot of them very comfortably. Yeah. When we win 2-3-0. People will say Daniel Farke should just go for it. Well, you know what? I would rather him be risk adverse at the risk of conceding one and letting a team back into the game. Again, as much as I love the big man, I was there when we were 3-0 up against Cardiff at Elland, and we ended up drawing 3-3 because and we did that in other moments too. That weren't a one-off the Cardiff game. We'd be 2-0 up and we'd concede against a run of play, and then the game changes. That's what Daniel Farke gives us as a difference, especially at this level. So, I just think we've been sensational, mate. I really, really do. There's so many highlights from this season that I'm sure in another stream we'll go through and pick apart. But to score 92 goals and be on 97 points with one more game to go is it's just a joke. It's just a literal joke.
Yeah, absolutely. And also coming back off major disappointment last season and being able to kind of go again and lose a section of your squad, but kind of build a better machine this year. I feel the machine is better this year. I mean, we've said it all season. We've been consistent, and we've said the football has been better this season. We've said it all season. I think, tonight was just kind of everything was there on show, really.
Daniel Farke has recognised the fact that we needed more balance across the pitch.
Yeah.
He's been able to get the right midfielders within the setup to be able to facilitate the fullbacks, and he's been able to then make sure that we're able to go down both sides. I love Archie Gray, but Archie Gray limited us on the right-hand side last season. So Dan James was in front of him, but we weren't able to build the overlaps in the same way. Archie had to go in field, which then left Dan James isolated. This season, because of Jayden Bogle and Junior Thurpo, with the two boys that they've got in front of them, they're able to absolutely destroy teams down the wings. Yeah. And, minutes into the game, it was Bogle to Thurpo to Bogle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Within seconds, we're finding Jayden Bogle at number 9 position. And then moments later, it's Thurpo at number 9 position. The football's incredible, man. It really is. I think Daniel Farke gets an incredibly hard bargain when it comes to the quality of what we watch on the pitch, because the players are, quote unquote, really, really good players. That doesn't just mean that it throws together and we see what we see. That is hours and hours and hours of a manager and a coaching team drilling the team to be able to play like that. And not only that, but do it in a way that then limits the amount of danger that you keep us under, which is what we do extremely well. I mean, if we didn't, we wouldn't see Illan Melia with the amount of clean sheets that he's got this season. You know what I mean? That's down to the setup. So I just think the whole thing is, I mean, it goes without question that it's miles better than last year. It is literally levels above last year, mate. Levels and levels and levels. We've beaten, with the exception of Burnley, which, you could argue we probably deserve some at home. We drew away. We've beaten Sheffield United home and away. I'm going to say now that we've promoted and it doesn't matter that we've beaten Sunderland home and away, because we all know what happened away from home. Bristol are 5th, and we've beaten them home and away. Coventry are 6th. We're beating them home and away. We absolutely battered Coventry at Coventry. All the teams in and around us, we've smashed them all. West Brom, I think, are really the only team out of the top 10 that have given us any sort of real problem other than Burnley. So, yeah, I can't say enough about the football this season.
Well, you're probably talking about a team as well who, if they had a different goalkeeper in from the start, I mean, how many more points would we have on the board? We could have 110 points or something stupid.
I think we'd have broken the record.
Ridiculous.
I genuinely think we'd have broken the record. Yeah. I really do. I think if we'd have had any other championship keeper, we said this about Carl Darlow the other week. Carl Darlow's only a championship keeper, but unfortunately, Elland's regressed to being below that. He wouldn't look out of place in League One. If we'd have had Max O'Leary, who I really like, I think is a top keeper. He kept them in the game for a long time. He did the same at Elland Road last year when we beat him 2-1. He really kept them in the game. If we'd have had him in there as an example, I honestly think we'd have beaten the record. I really do. I think this team would have been more than capable of another 10 points with one game to go. Would have been on 107, going for 110. I really do think it.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I think the evidence is right there. Let's get to some of your comments then. Gavin, MOT, absolutely indeed. Johnny,
Gavin, what do you think of Farke?
The scenes at Elland Road were great. Farke was drenched. Lee, top two teams have never finished on 100 points. The last 2 seasons in this league have been incredible. Absolutely. And if I can see a couple more comments, and we're going to get into the bigger picture stuff in a little bit as well. I mean, all over the pitch tonight. It was absolutely sensational. We mentioned him at the start, but Brendan Aronson. I thought he was absolutely spot on. And I'm just curious for these people that kind of write players off, or especially him. He was written off from the start by a section of the fan base, and they've never given him anything at all, even though he's played 40 odd games and he's clearly been vital in the system. Do you know what I noticed about him as well? And we take for granted the fact that he wins back the ball from so many positions. Little stuff like that gets us back on the front foot, and it's kind of ignored and overlooked. And technically with his shooting, sometimes it's not great. We know that, and he can, sometimes he'll hit that weak shot, won't he? You just think, oh, Brendan just smashed it home. But, other than that, I think he really deserves more credit for what he's done this season. And it's just interesting, certain people who've kind of written him off all season. What are they watching tonight? What have they got to say about a performance like that tonight?
Well, they won't say anything tonight because he had an extremely good game.
Well, they won't even acknowledge it, though, will they? They won't acknowledge the good game. Yeah.
If Brendan were a Leeds boy, it'd be heralded, mate. It would.
Yeah.
It would, because they would love the effort. You know, I think of a certain blonde-haired striker that we used to have that didn't used to score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Like people remember Alan Smith in a bit of a weird way, I think, because his goal-scoring record wasn't that great. He technically wasn't that gifted, but he worked his absolute ass off.
Yeah.
He'd die for the badge, like he'd put his body on the line, like he was brilliant at what he was brilliant at, but he wasn't technically that gifted. And I can think of others. Simon Walton, when he first came in, Matt Kilgallen was very similar at the back.
Yeah. Had a lot of them type of players, haven't we?
Alex Mower, I would say, would be in that kind of pool of players that we kind of let it get away with murder because we were a Leeds product. Yeah. And you know, Brendan Aronson, I think, is the victim of the opposite of that. Like, if he was a Leeds boy, he'd be absolutely loved. And I mean, I think he's been great all season. He has deficiencies. He absolutely has deficiencies. But he's a championship player, Brownie. He's playing in the championship for a reason, because he has them deficiencies. In this system, he's almost a perfect foil number 10 for Daniel Farke. He does Joe Perreault's work to allow Joe Perreault to do what he does really, really well. He allows the wingers to do what they do really, really well. Our goals, I've said it countless times, come from the fullback and the wingers. And Brendan is in there to do a job. He's chipped in with, I think it's 10 goals and 2 or 3 assists. Sure, he could have got more, and he probably should have got 3 or 4 more. But I'm telling you, as a squad player next season, I would be very happy having Brendan Aronson in and around the squad. I really would. To come off the bench, do what he does, affect games in certain ways when other players are tired, give him opportunity to progress and grow. He's still only young himself, you know. And I also factor in 2 things with Brendan. He's American, and we all know the way that Leeds fans feel about Americans because of Jesse Marsh mainly, and the fact that he left in the circumstances in which he did last year. Yeah. Now, most players would have done exactly what Brendan did. He had opportunity to go and play Champions League football in a country that he was probably a little bit more comfortable in. Yeah. And he made that decision. But, you know, when he came back this year, he came back with balls. Like, he came back with a real sort of purpose. He earned the number 10 spot. He's made it his own all season. And he's been the best option that we've had there all season. We've seen it when other opportunities have gone to Nantes or whoever else. So he deserves so much credit. He won't get it. He won't get it from the fans, because that's just what people are like. They're not capable of saying I was wrong on the whole. But I think he's been brilliant, mate. It's true, isn't it, Brownie? It's true.
It's and we've seen we've absolutely seen it all season, 100%. Do check out myself and Jason. We will be putting out a video after the final game of the season at some point. It's a start, sell, or bench video. So we're going to go through everyone in the squad. We're going to give you our take and who should make it to the Prem and who we maybe need to cut by the wayside. So I can't wait to get that video done. Looking forward to that. Now, just looking at kind of some of the bigger picture stuff, promotion is sealed. I can see Daniel Farke being interviewed now, and there's a big spotlight there on Farke at the moment. We've seen another article come out today, The Guardian reporting on potential managerial candidates, reporting Parag Maratha's come in for key talks with Daniel. Kind of thinking it might have been because it was the final home game that he was flying in as well. You think. And it's a real tricky one, isn't it? Because, you don't know what the truth is, do you really? You look at a performance like that tonight, you look at how the team's been, and you think, surely he's going to get that opportunity. But there's just something about football and the way it works where you think you just don't truly know. The club has not come out and squashed anything. It's not come out and said these rumours are false. Parag Maratha declined to do a Sky Sports interview where, the first question would have been, what's Daniel Farke's future at the club? It may have been an opportunity to come out and say, he's our man going into Premier League. And, you think, have they avoided doing that so they don't want to look foolish if they get someone else in a month or something like that? So there's a lot of this going on. I mean, some of the names mentioned in this article today, I mean, I was thinking, right, just relegate us then. If Carlo Ancelotti's son, who's never managed, you're going to put him in charge of a Premier League team and give him a £120 million budget. I mean, it's completely ludicrous. If that was the thinking of the club, I'd be very worried. I don't think it is, though. So it's it's silly season. It's mad. Where do you stand on this now? Because this is going to rage on, isn't it? And do you think the club should have come out and quashed it and said, no, this is the man. This is what's happening. This is how it should be. Or is there a part of you actually, Jason? I mean, we discussed it a little bit on last week. Is there a little bit that you think, look, in a month, if they do make a change, but it's someone who, has got the experience, the CV or whatever, could that be the right move? It's just difficult, when you watch a game like tonight, you think, to break that apart. And I get it's a different level. It is a different level. It's not going to be like that next year, but it's really, really tricky.
It is, because I don't think we're in the same situation as Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester, who, didn't really have the progression plan in place to try and take this on to the next level. The expansion of the stadium, the recruitment that we're likely to put in. So I understand the position that the 49ers are in. Do they want to trust the money that they're going to invest in the first team squad with Daniel Farke, who has a sketchy Premier League record, if you want to say? Now, I've done a lot of thinking about this, a lot of reflecting on it, and I think, Danny Farke's interview I thought were really telling the other day when he was kind of questioned on it and being like, look, when we were at Norwich, we'd done the miracle. We expected to go down. The club were completely and utterly okay with the fact that we went down. We got COVID during that season. Unfortunately, when we came back, we were in an all right position, but then we just couldn't win any points with no fans there. I think he has a bit of a point. The recruitment that they put in was next to embarrassing, but that was that was what Daniel Farke knew he had to work with, given the circumstances of Norwich City, because they're a championship club. So I think to use any sort of to take anything from his Norwich time in the Premier League is completely and utterly unfair with the cards that he's now going to have dealt with at Leeds United. We're almost better saying he never has been in the Premier League, which would be counterproductive, because then we would be saying we would be happier with a manager with no Premier League experience than one that's got 2 years worth of Premier League management experience. Do you get where I'm trying to come from? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. So I would rather him have had that time there and know what he's going to potentially have to deal with, even though it is now a few years on. He's had top-level experience with Mönchengladbach. He finished 10th. He got sacked at the end of that season for whatever reason. They finished 9th the season after. Like, that's in and around where Mönchengladbach finished. So yeah. I really have a hard time with giving him any sort of grief because of the Norwich time. I just do, because the recruitment wasn't there to compete. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry for interrupting. No, I was just going to say, it kind of brings it home, like how brutal the managerial merry-go-round is as well. It's like the situation can be pretty unfair on a manager, but if they're deemed to fail, it kind of haunts them for the foreseeable. I mean, we were talking about, I mentioned in the group chat the other day about Kieran McKenna, and you probably couldn't have had a manager with a higher stock coming into the Premier League last season. Fast forward 12 months later, I don't think there's a Premier League team now that would be, certainly not like Chelsea looking.
It'd definitely be deemed a gamble, wouldn't it? It'd definitely be deemed a gamble. You're right.
That perception has completely changed. If Farke stays and we're up in the Premier League and we have a decent season, it can change again. Suddenly teams are, actually he's all right. It's mad, isn't it? How it changes.
How can you change it, Brownie? Record. I've just seen the comment from Michael there. Record after record after record this season. The goals that we've scored, the football that we've played, the dominance that we've controlled. Go and have a look at the stats for the division. We're top of all metrics with the exception of goals conceded. That's it, and that's only surpassed by the best defense in the Championship that we will ever see. We will never see a record low like Burnley's again. I don't think. I think it is literally insane what they've managed to do, which is why you have to give Scott Parker his flowers as well.
Yes.
They don't play as entertaining as football as we do, but they are very good at what they do. They're very, very effective. You cannot knock that. So I cannot see any world in which I would say it would be acceptable, because I don't think the recruitment of the manager that we would be getting would be that much of a level in front. Yeah. So the names that were mentioned in The Guardian today, I think, are more the names that we're going to be looking at are Schmidt. And I know the boys disagreed with us in the group when we were chatting about this in the review. They were thinking that we should be looking at, I've forgotten his name now, the ex-Dortmund coach.
Oh, yes.
I forget his name. Yeah, no, but or Iriola, that kind of level of manager would be. And I don't think we would get that kind of manager at this step. I think we need, and I saw somebody mention this on content earlier, we need our season of Steve Cooper at Forest, or our season of
Chris Hughton at Brighton, for God's sake.
Chris Hughton at Brighton. We do. We need our season where that manager keeps us in the Premier League. And I think Daniel Farke can be that manager. And then, you know what? In 12 months' time, a difficult decision might need to be made when we finish 15th. And then you say, right, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. We've got the opportunity to now bring in X manager who's going to take us into the top 7. Yeah. I can understand that. I can make peace with that. But on the, and Daniel Farke might prove us all wrong and we finish 10th and everybody's laughing because the football's good and, he's built on what even, we thought he would be capable of. But I just don't see how it could make any sense. There wouldn't be a manager that I could just get, unless you go out and get like Nuno from Forest or something, but he's not going to come, is he? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get what fans would want. I can't understand how unhappy some fans are. We're on 97 points, Brownie. It's the Bielsa shadow. And I say it all the time, like, I love the man. I absolutely love him. Like, I would probably still take him back tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I would, because I love him and adore him that much.
Yeah.
But Farke's done a better job.
Yeah.
But fans just want to ignore it.
Yeah.
Terzic is the coach.
Terzic. Michael, Farke deserves a shot at the Premier League. He has rebuilt 2 Leeds United teams. He has forged a winning mentality among the group of players and a strong bond with this group of players. The 49ers must take note. Couple of things with the Guardian article as well. There was a strong hint that 49 is going to be data based and for recruitment, where they said that might not jar with some managers. I agree. I think you're right though, in terms of that level of manager we've seen linked with today. If that was the where we're looking to shop for a new manager, you stick with Farke all day long. For me, I mean, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, who got sacked to Rangers after a couple of months. I mean, it's just hell no. Do you know what I mean? It's like if Leeds were to go down that route, I would be really, really worried. Because they surely won't. I mean, because like you say, if you're going to make a change, you look at what Forest did, Steve Cooper and then Nuno. That's solid. That's rock solid, smart. We're getting rid of Coops, but we're getting a guy in who's clearly capable of this level.
Imagine we'd have gone and got in when we got.
I know
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter now. So it's fascinating. I mean, what in terms of Farke, in terms of getting this to work in the Premier League? I mean, it is going to be a completely different level. And I don't want to feel like the wool's getting pulled over his eyes. Oh, look at us, how good we are this year, thinking it's going to automatically. We've seen before, haven't we, where championship sides go up and absolutely crumble. I hope. I mean, is Daniel Farke capable of adjusting? Okay, we're not going to have as much possession. Maybe there's going to have to be more kind of, I don't know, counter-attacks. Maybe we're going to have to be more resolute at the back. Maybe the full-backs can't be flying up all the time. Is Daniel Farke capable of doing that? Because, you look at someone like Vincent Kompany, who, came up and he's a zealot. He's like, this is the way I play, and that's it. And to me, it's embarrassing when you go up to the Premier League and try and maintain that, get humped every week and get relegated. And fine, it's got him a job at Bayern Munich because of stylistically it fits in with what top teams are trying to do. But I want at this stage, I it ties into what you're saying. You need that pragmatism. You need that guy who's going to get us those grind seasons, 15th, 16th, 17th. Who cares as long as we stay up? Do you think Farke is capable of delivering that? Because it's going to be. We're not going to have games like tonight next season. That is not going to happen at all. We're not going to be allowed to do that.
I think so. Like, I think you've seen Daniel Farke play in different ways this season. I think Daniel Farke has developed a lot as a manager in his time at Leeds United. We've seen us go away to West Brom when earlier on this season when we needed to just kind of stem the bleeding and we got a 0-0 draw. You know, Burnley away, I'd say that we played far more pragmatically. I think a lot of people's issues with Daniel Farke is he's actually too pragmatic at times. You know, it's not just a case of that we have bombing fullbacks. That is the way that we attack and try and score goals. But, you know, Ilya Gruev sits in there and we play with the back three. We actually play with the back four sometimes with the fullbacks further up the pitch and Tanaka and Gruev in there alongside the centre-backs. So I honestly believe that Daniel Farke's success or failure will depend on the recruitment. It will all be on the recruitment. You know, Daniel Farke will get things wrong next season, but all managers get things wrong in the Premier League. He has got the momentum of the players that are there and the way that he's come up with this team. You know, taking us back after only 2 years away, you know, that didn't happen before, did it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we've been able to build back on it. We've got a war chest. We've got the stadium plans. Like, there's a lot of good, positive momentum behind the team. And I do believe the 49ers well know that they're going to have to strongly recruit in the summer and they're going to have to get it right. Because, you know, this squad, as great as it is at championship level, does need 5 or 6. But I don't think it needs it as badly as Leicester, Ipswich, or Southampton needed it. I think that this, even though we ended up falling short last season, given the circumstances and all the things that came with it, I think this team is way beyond them 3. I really do. I think 12 months of it, the players that we got obviously in the summer to adapt to the development of certain players within the side. You know, I'm looking at Dan James. I'm looking at, you know, Joel Perreault. I'm looking at Joe Rodon. You know, these players 12 months ago wouldn't have been Premier League players. I would say Dan James and Joe Rodon, especially right now, they would get into pretty much every squad of the bottom 7 or 8 in the Premier League. I would say that'd be fair. I think Joe Rodon especially would start in most at the bottom half. I think he's a very, very comfortable, capable Premier League centre-back. So I think this squad is in an okay state as long as the recruitment that comes in alongside it, especially in the key spots, Brownie, 9, 10, goalkeeper, and then 3 especially. If we can get them nailed with really good recruitment, you know, propositions, I think we'll be all right. I do. You know, you only have to try and find 1 or 2 that can finish below you. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough, but it's going to be tough for whoever takes over because the Premier League is bloody tough for these promoted clubs. You know, so, you know, sticking another manager in there isn't just a guaranteed recipe for success. We've seen that with some of the managers that have come in and then been bombed out. Look at Lopetegui. At West Ham and at Wolves. You know, that didn't do it, did it? Like, some Leeds fans would be genuinely happy with Lopetegui or a quote-unquote similar manager to Lopetegui's experience coming in and replacing Daniel Farke right this second. It doesn't guarantee success. So, yeah, I just think we have to go ahead with the momentum that we've gained and you know, stick with Daniel Farke. And, you know, after 10 games, if he's lost all 10 of them, or if he loses his first 6, it's a different conversation. But based on the evidence that we've got in front of us, I don't think it's possible to make that statement that he's not the right man. I just don't. Not based on what we've seen.
If you're 49ers, if you're, you know, leading the recruitment, how, you know, based on that, because I guess the issue is if you recruit heavily and Farke, we know, has a hand in the recruitment, he has his say, has his input, and you do all that, but then you know you lose your 10 games and Farke's sacked. What do you think the recruitment is aimed at? Is it kind of going to be manager led? Is it going to be, no, we're going to trust the data? You know, that's an interesting one as well, because if you get it wrong, you know, if you do back Farke and you spend a lot of money and it just doesn't work, and then you're trying to get another manager in, it's not his players and it's all different styles, and you know, that's a difficult one, isn't it, as well?
It is, but what I will say with that is Daniel Farke's the manager now, but they will have a shortlist. Yeah. So the managers that they would potentially look to replace him with, should that time ever come, you know, Daniel Farke, while I know fans throw this at him a lot, Daniel Farke, the fans throw at him that know the club wants him. There might come a time where Daniel Farke's wanted by someone else and he leaves of his accord. You know, so the 49ers will always have a plan, a succession plan in place for if it goes wrong or if Daniel Farke leaves. So the players that they will sign will be able to fit within the way that they want the team to play, the most sustainable way of which they want it to play. Very similar to what Brighton have done with Potter to De Zerbi to I forget his name. Hurtzler, that's right, isn't it? Yeah. The style of football has been hoped to be progressed and developed and built upon what they've been doing there for years and years and years. It hasn't just, they don't just go from one type of manager to another. I believe that the 49ers would be similar with Daniel Farke, possession, pragmatic, based attacking, winger attacking football. Like, I think that is what we would see. So I think any recruitment that comes in, while they will be ratified with a Daniel Farke seal of approval, I don't believe that there will be, like, Daniel Farke won't just be able to go out and be like, no matter what you say, I want that player. I don't think it works like that in most clubs now, Brownie, if I'm honest with you. Unless you're Manchester United. I think that's pretty much what they do. I think that is what they do. I think they just kind of go like, oh, he's playing well, yes, sign him. Like, I don't think there's any thought process around the style really that much. And that's why it's not working. So, I think I based on what we've seen of the 49ers recruitment policy, it's been brilliant. So I'm not going to start worrying about it being bad when all we've seen is good.
Yeah.
Literally every signing, pretty much, has been good.
How do you think that handover's working then from kind of Nick Hammond moving on? Obviously, we saw Angus Kinnear was sat there tonight, but Nick Hammond specifically, because he was brought in on the recruitment side. Are you concerned at all the fact that that's kind of getting broken up a little bit now? And I think, is it Adam Underwood who's going to kind of taking over the bulk of it? And are you kind of worried a little bit about how that's all kind of working? Because who's driving the recruitment?
Yeah,
who's going to be driving?
I'm a little bit concerned by it, but when we were in a much worse position with a much less attractive proposition, we managed to go out and get Nick Hammond, get Greta Steinson, build this kind of recruitment process that worked brilliantly. 2 years on, now we're in a glorious position of going to the Premier League. I can't believe that the 49ers will balls it up so much that it will be worse than what it was before. I can't see how that would make sense. So I am worried on the face of it because we're not hearing much. But I said this at the time when we reported on the Angus Kinnear stuff, the more and more I think about his time at Leeds and the more and more I think about him, I actually think it's a massive loss. I think it's a massive, massive loss for us. I think he gets tarnished with the rads and auto brush, but I think he's actually done a great job for Leeds United. And I think there's a real reason why Everton at this stage of where they're at in the progression, why they were so desperate to get him. He oversaw the transition at West Ham, and then he oversaw the transition to get Leeds United into the Premier League. And now he's gone to Everton as their main man in and around the stadium rebuild and the club restructuring and everything. He clearly knows what he's doing, does Angus Kinnear. So I actually think he'll never get the credit he deserves at Leeds. But I think when we look back over time, I think we'll be pretty appreciative of what Angus has done.
It's a funny one as well, isn't it? Because obviously he can't get inside his head and his motivations and his reasons. It might even come to something as simple as what the paycheck is. But it's, you think, it's kind of a little bit of a shame in a way, isn't it? The fact that, obviously there's expansion plans today, which we'll come to as well. But it was a kind of a surprise because I thought he was that bridge between Radrizzani and the 49ers. It was him who got that deal done, by the way, and greased the wheels for that. And it almost feels like that it was one of those where you thought, it's a bit odd, is that? Because I agree with you, actually. I think he's been unfairly kind of tarnished. I think they kind of looked, a lot of fans looked at like the Three Stooges. It's like Rads, Orta, and Kinnear. I think people thought, it's Kinnear's fault why they got, Wes McKennie on loan in that January stuff. It's just not how it worked. So
I personally believe that Angus has been on the path to leaving since the 49ers took over. I think there had to be somebody to bridge the gap for a period of time. And I think the 2-year plan I think no matter what has happened over the last 2 years, I think Angus would have probably always moved on after 2 years. Yeah. I think it just coincides that he's probably getting a bit of quote unquote a promotion to Everton because of the work that he's done. And it looks like he's kind of leaving for Everton, but the 49ers will probably want their own man in there because he's still one of the older, the previous ownership team, really. Yeah. The fact that he stuck around for 2 years clearly shows to us as fans that the 49ers respected him as well and thought a lot about him, because otherwise they'd have just bombed him out. They'd have seen him for a fraud after 3 months and got rid of him. Yeah. So, I really think it was probably always succession. I saw Gavin put about Nick Hammond as well. That is true. Nick Hammond does work as a kind of like a freelance. He didn't stay at Newcastle particularly long either. So it kind of makes sense. He probably just gets paid an absolute whack to work in the way that he does on a freelance basis. And he did exceptionally good work at Newcastle. And I would say equally he's done exceptionally great work at Leeds United as well. So, fair play to him. Good luck to him. No problem from me. But I think the concern from your end is what does it now look like going forward? And we have to just trust the 49ers are going to get that right, given the fact that, now that we're back where we are and we look like we're going to win the division this season, the 49ers have been perfect.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't go up last season, but that wasn't because of them or Daniel Farker. Now we can look with hindsight. It was because of the way that the club had been left, the late change in ownership and the contracts.
Yeah.
We weren't able to prepare in enough time to get the team ready for the season. And maybe Daniel Farker can take some shortfallings on a couple of occasions last season.
Yeah.
The players were young. They bottled it, quote unquote, bottled it. But now that we're now back, the 49ers have nailed it, mate. I mean, I look at their recruitment and to a man, they've been perfect. Even Jed Spence, who's the one that everybody labels as the flop, has gone on and played a full season of Premier League football this year.
Yeah.
You're talking about the quality of the player. Like, everybody wanted Jed Spence. Nobody was unhappy with Jed Spence. Jaden Anthony is another one. Daniel Farker chose not to use him. Look at what he's done this season. And he's had a fantastic season. So I can't knock a single signing that they made.
Yeah.
Can you? Can you think of a single one that you could be like, oh no, that were a terrible signing? I just can't.
Yeah. And I think the point you made earlier as well about the fact that they put together this team, Nick Hammond and all these guys so quickly, after, because obviously we lost Orta, who, was the director of football and led the recruitment, everything like that. He's gone. 49ers take over in the summer. They had, a few weeks to put together a team to deliver. And like you said, I mean, signing after signing after signing has been absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
We're a whisker away last year from going up, and then they've come back and they've got it done this year. They've made some, really hard summer in a lot of ways, selling Archie great. So the emotional wrench of that, but they knew they had to do it. And for the bigger picture, it's worked massively, and it had to be done. And I like that. I like that they didn't kind of shy away from it. Obviously, I didn't want to sell Archie Gray in a million years, obviously, but they weren't going to kind of pretend, or try and, keep him and then, end up having the team suffer in the long run.
With the exception of having to sell Archie, I would argue that it's better that we didn't go up last season and we're now going up this season. I really would. I know we lost Gio as well. But I would argue that Gio was, I think we will probably sign a player of an equivalent level to Gio Rutter next season when we go up. So I'm not that, like, I was gutted at the time, but I'm not overly heartbroken that we now don't have Gio Rutter in a Premier League side next season. I will always be gutted that we have to sell a used product, but I understand it from a PSA financial side of things. But everything else, I'd say that this team is so much more equipped to have a proper crack at the Premier League than we were 12 months ago. I think if we went up 12 months ago, I think there's a very likely case that we'd have been one of the three straight back down, like all three of them have been. We are now more ready. We definitely are more ready. So it's hard to see in the moment, a bit like when we missed out under Bielsa. We got to have that second season. It was brilliant, and we got to build in a totally different. It was actually a silver lining in the long run. So I'm choosing to see it like that anyway. I think I don't know what I'm interested to get your take on it. Gavin's comment there about it's odds on, and I know you kind of briefly touched on it earlier about why have they not come out and quashed it. I don't think that the 49ers really look at a news media outlet like the two papers that have reported this and been like, they're like, it's not on the school playground. Like, they're not children. They'll just be like, it's a nothing. Like, if there's nothing in it, is what I'm saying. They'll be like, it's a nothing story. We're not going to even waste our time coming out and even giving any credence to this. We're not going to say anything. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to say anything. Daniel Farker has a contract for another 2 years. They've said what they've said on record before about Daniel Farker. All that is making us think this is that these news rags have pushed this out there. Like, it's up to the newspapers say all sorts, don't they? All the time. Absolutely. Now, usually it comes with a little bit of smoke, but that smoke can be anything. So I'm choosing right now until we find out otherwise to just take it as what it is, which is newspaper talk.
Yeah.
Daniel Farke deserves everything. So why would we be talking about him leaving? That's how I see it.
Yeah. We're going to get to your comments in a moment. Just one thing I want to touch on. You just out of pure interest, his name's popped up, and I'm just curious to get your take on it. Is Archie Gray, Mr. Archie Gray, and it's interesting to watch how it's gone for him at Spurs. Spurs, I mean, God Almighty, they are absolutely horrendous, and Archie was terrible in that first half and got subbed at half time. He's not playing as much now. The other players have come back. He's watching his brother Harry, on the pitch celebrating promotion with the players. I mean, is there a bittersweet element there? Obviously, he's financially, compensated for it, no doubt, and he's played in Europe this season. He's had a lot of positivity around it as well. But you just wonder, don't you? That at night when he's lying in bed, if he ever thinks, God, it would have been real nice to maybe, give it another year at Leeds. I mean, obviously financially it's worked out for us as well, but do you think the modern day footballer has those kind of thoughts, or is it just all business and, get it done kind of thing?
I think he's still a young lad that loves his club, that'll, have moments where he wishes he still played for Leeds United because it's his boyhood club. And I'm prepared to probably bet that James Milner had him, Lewis Cook had him, Charlie Taylor had him, Sam Byram had him, Calvin Phillips had him when he went to Man City. Because they're still people out there and they're still young lads that want to play for their hometown club, really. But that's not the landscape of which football works in. And I think he was probably mature enough, given the fact that he'd grown up in and around football with his dad and his uncle and, all the family connections, that he would have understood and accepted what happened in the summer for the greater good. I really do. So, and I think when he looks back at his career in 10 years' time, and he'll be in his late 20s or whatever, he'll look back at this season and be very pragmatic around what it's probably taught him. I think he'll have gained loads from what's gone on this season at Spurs. Thrust in at centre-back, played right-back, played everywhere, subbed at half-time, subbed at times, played way too much probably. And he will have progressed and developed so much on the back of it. I really do believe that, as long as he can keep the mentality that he's always shown. So sure, I think he'll be sick that he's not in the squad that's got promoted. He'd love to come up with us and played nearly every game, because I think he would have done if he'd have been a Premier League player with Leeds United. But that weren't to be, and we had to have what happened. Unfortunately, I don't ever think we'll see him back, because I think he'll go on to be beyond us before we catch up. But who knows, So I think loads of progression will come for Archie, and it was just one of them really sour things that we just had to experience in the summer.
Yeah, indeed. Guys, if you can smash a like on the video if you've not already done so, get your comments in. Lee, thanks for your comment. Hi, chaps. I was surprised that none of the 49ers went over to congratulate Farke. The big questions, evening, everyone. Well, what a game that was. And Gavin, as he says here, the reports say Russell Martin. God, I didn't see Russell Martin.
No.
But Van Bronckhorst, WTF. Yeah.
Can we just talk about that comment about the 49ers? Like, I'm just seeing a few clips of the end of game, celebrations. The players and the manager are all celebrating together, all loving life. Have the 49ers come onto the pitch and thanked all of the players, but then ignore Daniel Farke? Because unless that's the case,
don't know.
Like, what are we talking? Why are we making a story out of that? This is kind of a testament to the time in which we're in, where we want to just see something out of anything. Like, the 49ers would expect to stay in the stands, enjoy it with the rest of the fans, watching the players and the manager celebrate who deserve it. Don't come and take the limelight by coming down onto the pitch and being like, yeah, we're here, 49ers, rock on. Like, no.
Checking this from... Well, Nine says here, a bit concerned about all this Farke situation, watching the on-pitch celebrations. Didn't see Parag and Farke together unless I missed it. But
so has Parag been on the pitch? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah. If Parag's been on the pitch and then, he's avoided Daniel Farke,
ignored Farke,
that just doesn't seem real to me. Like, let's not. So I saw Parag embrace Farke on the pitch. So this is what I'm saying. Like, let's not. Like, let's just not do this. This is a societal problem. This, by the way, this ain't a Leeds United problem. Like, we love drama. And looking for every little potential, like, little stickler that we can hit something with. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not saying that that's you specifically, Nigel, that does that, but I just don't get it. Like, let's not do this.
Diggler, for me, it would be wrong to replace Farker. They need to back him, in my opinion. The 49ers want full control of transfers. 49ers prefer a coach rather than a manager.
Is that
Robin,
true? Didn't they employ Daniel Farker? And Daniel Farker was very clear with the fact that he was the manager and not the coach. So
yeah, he's not definitely not just been a head coach, has he? Definitely.
Yeah, that's again, like, where do we get that from? Because the 49ers employed Daniel Farker. He was their man of choice. So did he prefer a manager or a coach? Because Daniel Farker has been very clear, I'm the manager.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Exactly. Robin, Farker has been harshly judged on his Premier record, spending €8 million to build a Prem side after best player sales spelled disaster. Sense must prevail, and the 49ers know this game. But as Gavin says here, I think it's odds on now that Farker leaves. They've not once tried to quash the speculation.
I'd be stunned, mate. I really would. I'd be absolutely stunned. The more I think about it, the more I would be really, really shocked if he were to leave.
Yeah.
I've been wrong before.
Michael, the team is more balanced this season, and there is a greater spread amongst the team in terms of goals scored. Somerville and Rutter were individual talented players, less team players. The stadium, Jason, stadium announcements today, I should say today, expansion, 53,000, and I think pretty much everyone's been blown away by the pictures they've seen, the graphics they've seen. It's kind of, it feels like it's still Elland Road when you see it. And I think I haven't seen any negativity towards it. It's all seemed positive. And it feels like it's more real somehow now, when you see those graphics, because obviously it's been rumoured for so long, the expansion. It's nice to actually kind of see it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it looked great, didn't it? I mean, what can you say? Like, the progression in which we can now take, we needed Premier League football. We knew we needed this for the recruitment, but also for the expansion plans. That'll allow nearly another 20,000 into the ground. It brings us in line with some of the clubs that we want to be in and around in Newcastle, Villa, in terms of size and stature, and not only that, but then the returns that come back because of the gate receipts, the atmosphere in which we can create, the players in which we can attract because they want to play in this stadium and in this ground. And, in terms of the ground itself and the concourse and whatnot, the ground needs it. Like we were talking about in the group earlier, Elland Road is miles behind where it should be, given the fan base that comes there every week and, the stature in which we like to hold ourselves. The ground's on its ass a little bit. I'm not talking about being in the stadium in terms of watching the game. I'm talking about the other bits, so like it is good to see this. And, the 49ers are not stupid. They know the value that's attached to the club in terms of then the stadium representing us correctly. So it's brilliant news, mate. It's absolutely brilliant news. And again, it just gives us more chance of being able to stick in and around where we want to be, which is, I'm going to say, top half Premier League club. Yeah. I think that's a more than fair ambition for the next 5 years, is to be an established top 10 Premier League club. So, and we, from there we can build, can't we?
Yeah. Gavin says you can tell it's the same design as Anfield. Is it?
I've heard a few people say that.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a few kind of comparisons and everything there. Fantastic. And like you say, it's kind of a status symbol as well, isn't it? It's like
it is.
We're one of the big boys. I mean, again, you don't have a 53,000 championship stadium, do you? This is for the Premier League. This is what we're looking to do, and how vital it's going to be to stay in the Premier League. Jason, one more game to go from this campaign. It's Plymouth, who right at the bottom of the league, back from Cardiff at the weekend, and then we're done, mate. After all that, that'll be 46 games done and dusted.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, tonight I didn't think about it really today. Yeah. I was just like, I'm getting to watch Leeds later, and just enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching the games at the weekend. I watched all the relegation battle. I watched Luton. I watched Derby and Hull later on. Like, I watched all of the games as they happened to just enjoy watching the drama. of the relegation battle, the playoff battle. And Saturday comes, I get to watch all of the half 12s, get to watch us win, because we're gonna beat Plymouth on Saturday. I feel that they're down, albeit by a ridiculous goal difference, which they're not going to get. They'll know that. If we turn up and play anything like that, they'll have had enough after 20 minutes. Can you imagine that turning up to a relegated side? It'll be like the Charlton game when we just thumped them off the pitch when they were already relegated.
At 12:30s, remember.
Not this again. Not this again. I just think we'll blow them away. We'll win the league, and I'll love watching what happens for the battle for 5th and 6th. I'll love watching the battle for the relegation. The relegation picture in the Championship is nuts, by the way. And then 2.5 hours later, well, it will be 2.5 hours later by the time the game finishes. It'll be about 20 minutes, half an hour. We get to watch the Football League get all decided, and we'll be watching Bradford for our guys. Fingers crossed they get sorted and get over the line, because that's super exciting as well. This is what football's all around and all about. And as a neutral, when your team's boxed off, and especially when you're celebrating a promotion and hopefully a title win, you can really enjoy it. Like, that's the best bit. So, I'm absolutely buzzing for Saturday. I can't wait for it to come around already. So, and then the season's done, and we can just talk about rumours and who we can keep, who we can sell, who we can buy, and we can start talking about Strand Larson, this, and João Neves, whatever names you want to kind of fire up. I were getting very excited the other day, saying, I'd love this player, and
it's good, isn't it? Though it's exciting, isn't it? Premier League recruitment, man. Premier League recruitment. It's gonna be absolutely top. Well, myself and Jason, we will be back at some point over the weekend, I'm sure, to pick things up and check in. And look, we don't know what kind of crazy stuff's going to happen between then and now, but we'll be here and ready, depending on what happens. But just enjoy it, Leeds United fans, because like Jason says, we can sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun. Because like you say, there's going to be so many twists and turns at the weekend.
You look at some of them key moments this season as well. People were very quick, and we did. I remember we did a stream after Luton, and we're very much, we may have thrown this away. We even touched on a conversation on whether Farke should go, and we should bring. We did, we were flapping a little. Neither of us said we should definitely do that, but you could have understood it if the 49ers did it. This only happened a few weeks ago. That point at Luton, now they went and won 3 on the bounce after that. And they've got the chance to stay up. This is what the division does. What reminded me of this was Michael's comment at the bottom. The win away at Oxford, who have now just confirmed survival. They beat Sheffield United. They've beaten other good teams as well. Middlesbrough away were a tough one. Luton away were a tough one. We on paper, we had a quote-unquote easy running. Go and have a look at the results the teams at the bottom have pulled out, including Plymouth, by the way, who were dead and buried, and they're still taking it to the last game of the season. I know they can't stay up really, but the fact that they're even in the equation is crazy. So, we have really, squashed the bottler tag, because when it could have gone to the absolute wall and Daniel Farke came out and said, this team will get promoted, he got his team promoted, and the boys did what they needed to do to get it over the line. I'm so proud of them. I really am. I can't stress it enough. They deserve it. We deserve it.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Guys, thank you very much for watching along. Thank you to everyone who commented. If you've not done so already, please do like the video. If you're watching this again later, do like it and get your comments in as well. And please do follow the channel. We will be back at some point over the weekend, or maybe even sooner. We'll wait and see. But for now, I've been Stephen Brown. Joining me as ever has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we will speak again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.